Skylab was a space station launched and operated by NASA and was the United States' first space station. Skylab orbited Earth from 1973 to 1979, and included a workshop, a solar observatory, and other systems. It was launched unmanned by a modified Saturn V rocket, with a weight of 150,300 pounds, 68,175 kilograms. 3 manned expeditions to the station, conducted between May 1973 and February 1974 using the Apollo Command Service Module, CSM, atop the smaller Saturn IB, each delivered a 3-astronaut crew. On the last 2 manned missions, an additional Apollo, Saturn IB stood by ready to rescue the crew in orbit if it was needed. The station was damaged during launch when the micrometeoroid shield separated from the workshop and tore away, taking one of 2 main solar panel arrays with it and jamming the other one so that it could not deploy. This deprived Skylab of most of its electrical power, and also removed protection from intense solar heating, threatening to make it unusable. The first crew was able to save it in the first in-space major repair, by deploying a replacement heat shade and freeing the jammed solar panels. Skylab included the Apollo telescope mount, which was a multispectral solar observatory, multiple docking adapter, with 2 docking ports, airlock module with EVA hatches, and the orbital workshop, the main habitable volume. Electrical power came from solar arrays, as well as fuel cells in the docked Apollo CSM. The rear of the station included a large waste tank, propellant tanks for maneuvering jets, and a heat radiator. Numerous scientific experiments were conducted aboard Skylab during its operational life, and crews were able to confirm the existence of cornel holes in the Sunday the Earth Resources Experiment Package, EREP, was used to view Earth with sensors that recorded data in the visible, infrared, and microwave spectral regions. Thousands of photographs of Earth were taken, and the record for human time spent in orbit was extended beyond the 23 days set by the Soyuz 11 crew aboard Salyut 1. To as much as 84 days by the Skylab 4 crew. Plans were made to refurbish and reuse Skylab, using the Space Shuttle to boost its orbit and repair it. However, development of the shuttle was delayed, and Skylab re-entered Earth's atmosphere and disintegrated in 1979, with debris striking portions of Western Australia. Post-Skylab NASA space laboratory projects included Spacelab, Shuttlemere, and Space Station Freedom, later merged into the International Space Station. Background rocket engineer Wernher von Braun, science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke, and other early advocates of manned space travel, expected until the 1960s that a space station would be an important early step in space exploration. Von Braun participated in the publishing of a series of influential articles in Collier's magazine from 1952 to 1954, titled Man Will Conquer Space Soon. He envisioned a large, circular station 250 feet, 75 meters, in diameter that would rotate to generate artificial gravity and require a fleet of 7,000 ton, 6,500 metric ton, space shuttles for construction in orbit. The 80 men aboard the station would include astronomers operating a telescope, meteorologists to forecast the weather, and soldiers to conduct surveillance. Von Braun expected that future expeditions to the Moon and Mars would leave from the station. The development of the transistor, the solar cell, and telemetry, led in the 1950s and early 1960s to unmanned satellites that could take photographs of weather patterns or enemy nuclear weapons and send them to Earth. A large station was no longer necessary for such purposes, and the United States Apollo program to send men to the Moon chose a mission mode that would not need in-orbit assembly. A smaller station that a single rocket could launch retained value, however, for scientific purposes. Early studies. In 1959, von Braun, head of the Development Operations Division at the Army Ballistic Missile Agency, submitted his final Project Horizon plans to the U.S. Army. The overall goal of Horizon was to place men on the Moon, a mission that would soon be taken over by the rapidly forming NASA. Although concentrating on the Moon missions, von Braun also detailed an orbiting laboratory built out of a Horizon upper stage, an idea used for Skylab. A number of NASA centers studied various space station designs in the early 1960s. Studies generally looked at platforms launched by the Saturn V, followed up by crews launched on Saturn IB using an Apollo Command, Service Module, or a Gemini capsule on a Titan IIc, the latter being much less expensive in the case where cargo was not needed. Proposals ranged from an Apollo base station with 2 to 3 men, or a small canister for 4 men with Gemini capsules resupplying it, to a large, rotating station with 24 men and an operating lifetime of about 5 years. A proposal to study the use of a Saturn SIVB as a manned space laboratory was documented in 1962 by the Douglas Aircraft Company. Air Force plans. The Department of Defense, DoD, and NASA cooperated closely in many areas of space. In September 1963, NASA and the DoD agreed to cooperate in building a space station. The DoD wanted its own manned facility, however, and in December it announced Manned Orbital Laboratory, MOLS, a small space station primarily intended for photo reconnaissance using large telescopes directed by a 2-man crew. The station was the same diameter as a Titan II upper stage, and would be launched with the crew riding atop in a modified Gemini capsule with a hatch cut into the heat shield on the bottom of the capsule. MOLS competed for funding with the NASA station for the next 5 years, and politicians and other officials often suggested that NASA participate in MOLS or use the DoD design. The military project led to changes to the NASA plans so that they would resemble MOLS less.